go to the second match here. I mean, nothing more needs to be said. We have coming up Firebat versus Eddie, another top versus bottom in terms of Frozen playing. He was the top #1 player, but now we get to see if Eddie can cement his lead and just kind of play it. But can Firebat win a little bit of pride back? I think Firebat could fight for not last place potentially.
Yeah.
Or he could tie for 7th place.
Yes, he could tie for 7th place with Bloody Face if Bloody Face were to lose his last match of the week. So, not the greatest of things to win for.
The highest of highs, Team Liquid, first in both divisions. The lowest of lows, Omni Slash has 3 players in Grandmasters, and 3 of them are in 8th place.
Yeah, it's been a rough season 1.
Yes, to say the least. Yeah. So Firebat can reclaim a little bit of that pride, but tapping into a little bit of his mindset. I think Firebat is obviously very unhappy with his performance. You just listen to his stream, you just talk to him in person, or even just work with him on a podcast. You kind of hear his mentality, and he takes competing very seriously. It's not like he's not trying hard. Firebat is preparing a lot, streaming a lot, and this week he's brought his mage, and Eddie's brought mage. We'll see if Firebat can get that big W under his belt, because you know what? As long as you finish with a nice win, you can still salvage a lot of the feelings that you had in the middle of the season.
Looking at the glass half full scenario, if he wins now, he increases his total wins for the season by 25%, Dan. Which is pretty big for one win, all things considered.
Well, he increases it by 33, actually.
33.
3 wins.
Yeah, and Eddie would only increase his by, what, 10%? So 12 point something. So matters much more for Firebat if you put it that way.
Yeah, it's 3 times the value.
Yeah, that's right. But there's not too many differences in their primary decks. Firebat has 1 Sea Giant and a Frostbolt and Sandbinder. Eddie has 2 Sea Giants and just a Snip Snap. Every other card is the same. When you look at it, I don't think either player is going to want to switch to either their secondary or tertiary deck because they take out too many important things. It feels like Eddie, there's a chance because his secondary deck has halftime scavengers, but Archmage Titanitis and Banana Buffoon way too important in the matchups, as well as Frost Nova for tertiary. So we got a primary deck battle, and Mage Mirrors are so volatile. So many opportunities for massive swings on the board, especially once you consider Sea Giants and Frost Novas. One player can appear to be ahead for much of the match, and then the rug can be pulled right out from under him with one big turn from their opponent. So interesting to watch, but also kind of mind-boggling to watch because it's almost impossible to figure out what's going to happen in the coming turns.
Yeah, I tell people that if I were to create an anime based off of Hearthstone, I think Cyclone Mage would be the primary deck of the hero, the protagonist, because I do think that it always creates these dramatic comebacks that you don't think are otherwise possible. And it's very fitting with dramatic storytelling, right? Like, oh, it's an unwinnable position. The only way that he can win is like put his faith in the Mana Cyclone, or put his belief behind the Khadgar summoning. And it's like one of those fun things where I feel like it'd be a really good a story arc to use it. Or it could be his best friend with a Brooklyn accent that relies on RNG a little too much.
You've put a lot of thought into this.
In order to compensate for his lack of dueling skills.
Dan's just got a whiteboard in backstage. He's just storyboarding a Cyclone Mage anime.
Look, we already got halfway through the Pixar animations. We're putting out shorts with the win or lose, featuring the fun characters in the tavern. I feel like we can take it a step further. Anime Expo is currently going on, TJ. I had a ticket. I would have gone if it wasn't for this weekend. I mean, I'm glad to be here, obviously. Earning money as opposed to losing money and being surrounded by weebs.
Would you have cosplayed?
I have cosplayed in the past.
What would you have cosplayed as this weekend?
This weekend? I don't know. I really enjoyed this past season of Attack on Titan. I feel like it has transcended anime and actually has become one of my favorite seasons in all of television, period.
You got to keep it simple for me, Dan.
Okay, so Goku.
Yes! I couldn't even sketch a rough drawing of Goku, to be honest, so...
Well, just, you know, draw a guy with a lot of muscles and an orange gi, and you're pretty much there. And yellow hair, of course. Well, technically blue hair. Well, actually, white hair in his final form.
See, you've already confused me.
All right, well,
Out on me.
we can check in on this mage mirror to center back, because I already get a little distracted there. We're going to begin things off with Eddie going first, playing Magic Trick. There is debate whether or not you should be playing Magic Trick for its full mana cost up front. When you have the ability to utilize it in combination with Sorcerer's Apprentice, you can use it with Stargazer Luna. You also have the possibility of holding on to it for Mana Cyclone later. Oh, sorry. Yes, Mana Cyclone. And have an extra spell generated.
It does give you the value of having additional information. So if you Magic Trick into something that may, you may benefit from holding on to Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's not often, because I can't even think of a single spell right now that you would get from Magic Trick that you would say, I'm gonna hold on to the Sorcerer's Apprentice, especially given the hand. But both players expending a Sorcerer's Apprentice in this early game, and both Sorcerer's Apprentice getting Ray of Frosted.
Yeah, this is probably still going to encourage Firebat to go for the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and Eddie's unhappy to see that because Firebat now can Pocket Galaxy on curve, and in the worst case scenario, can coin it out the following turn. Eddie can't answer this directly. Looks like he's going to have to just play a minion for tempo and hope that Firebat can't do that much damage with just the Sorcerer's Apprentice on board.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Eddie, he has drawn both of his Sea Giants early on, which are not great cards very early on in the game, especially when both players are kind of have this weird mediocre hand parity where they're just kind of playing you know, one minion at a time and not getting those huge Conjurer's Calling turns.
The future is
So
ours.
Eddie's goal here is going to be to try and set up for an ability to maybe play Sea Giant on the following turns. By playing Mirror Image now, he protects his Luna from Sorcerer's Apprentice trading it into ping, and he also guarantees that there's going to be at least 3 minions on the board going to the following turn. Maybe if Firebat were to play, like, let's say, his own Mirror Image here, Sea Giant could actually come down, but it's very unlikely.
All right, well, Firebat picks up Ray of Frost, but I think Luna's Pocket Galaxy is more than what he really wants in this position. Playing it for 4 mana. That is very cheap, and Firebat getting to hold on to the coin might be extremely valuable. Eddie trying to compensate it with the Banana Buffoon. See what he draws off the first banana.
Behold the tools of
Luna's
creation.
Pocket Galaxy for himself.
Ooh.
Definitely needs to remove the Sorcerer's Apprentice threat. Firebat can draw an assortment of cards, but I think the most important thing he's looking for is card draw. Oh my goodness gracious.
Turn 5 Archmage Antonitis.
Never mind. That's just the nuts, because Eddie couldn't even deal with a Sorcerer's Apprentice. How is he supposed to deal with Archmage?
Yeah, this is scary, not because of the fireballs, but just because of the 5/7 that's on board. And honestly, I think 3 fireballs is probably enough. I think this early on in the game, the coin is important because you can do more powerful things. Like, he doesn't even have enough mana to play multiple fireballs.
Right.
So I think holding onto the coin does have merit in this situation. He's not dealing with this Archmage Antonitis.
Not this turn, at least.
Outside of like one spell into Elementification, into Mana Cycle, into Polymorph. that's about the only way that's gonna happen. Eddie doesn't even have a Frostbolt in his deck, so he couldn't even like Banana Frostbolt ping to clear it off. And now it looks like he's just gonna have to Luna's Pocket Galaxy himself and then hope that he can rip some big things off the top.
He could layer in, like, he could work in killing the Antonites over 2 turns with the hero power, but it's probably too slow, so I think he has to Pocket Galaxy and just let Firebat accrue more fireballs and understand that his mana will be the limitation afterwards. Is it worth using a banana here at all?
Protects it from a ping, but I don't know if that's worth it, especially considering hand size may be a factor here.
It definitely looks like it. If I'm Firebat, I'm also thinking about ways I can push damage. And Mirror Image helps protect, but it does improve Sea Giant plays.
Aha! Honestly, my favorite play there would have just been Mountain Giant.
Unity, precision,
Just Mountain Giant is okay, but no, it's pretty good too. I think both players are viable.
Yeah.
Mountain Giant is like difficult to deal with, and it puts a lot of more pressure on the board than the Ziliax. But this lets you push 5.
That's true. Push 5, and then you have 8 damage next turn, which is 13 over 2 turns, which would be the same amount if you had Archmage and Tinnitus Mountain Giant.
Right. This gets you more fireballs, so you can
What
just
to
lob
do?
them upstairs.
What to
Yep.
I mean, Eddie is almost 100% dead. I think it's very likely that Eddie just draws air and doesn't have anything else to do for the rest of the game. And right now he can go for triple Snip Snap, but he also still kind of needs the hero power to eliminate at least 3 power on the board.
Yeah. Maybe even like Snip Snap, Sea Giant, just to have like one big thing on the board to try and be able to contest Archmage and Tinnitus. But honestly, like, you're taking 8 next turn, guaranteed. And then Fireball plus a ping,
Runs out on me.
that means you're taking 15. You go down to 11, or you go down to 10, which is just 2 Fireballs for lethal, and you have no way to counter lethal.
Right.
So, it honestly looks like, unfortunately for Eddie, game 1's just wrapped up. And hey, look, a 0-mana Sea Giant to top it all off.
Right. So Fireball with 2 more Fireballs coming. Firebat thinking probably about, like, is there any way for him to lose this position? I don't really think so. He's at full life. Eddie's basically dead, guaranteed, because of the 2 Fireballs.
Aha!
And that should do it for game number 1. Very fast start to the day here, TJ.
Yeah, the only thing that might keep him alive for a turn would be a Ziliax off the top, because he could magnetize it onto a Snip Snap to gain 5. But Firebat could then just kill off the Ziliax and have the same amount of Fireballs to be able to keep launching at the face over and over.
Yeah, and you know, Eddie yesterday on social media was like posting that he's uninstalling other games that are distractions to him at this point, because he's like, you know what, I've been throwing a little bit too much. I want to get preparation ready, but you know, this is not the kind of game you're going to judge his performance based off. You know, you lose these kinds of games sometimes in cards.
Yep.
And the faster you accept it, the faster you'll be able to break the walls that are holding you back from being able to achieve your goals. Some players are always messaging me on Twitter, and they're always saying, like, I'm stuck at, like, rank 7, or I'm stuck at, like, rank 2, can't really get to legend, can't get to rank 5, or I'm stuck at low legend, I can't even rank higher. You know, what can I do? And I think the first thing you have to do is stop blaming factors like luck.
Yeah.
You know, it happens sometimes.
Yep, it happens in pretty much every card game and a lot of strategy games out there. So
Yes, but on the flip side of it, sometimes it is just like that. Like, sometimes you just lose it. Sometimes you just have bad luck and, like, all right, next game.
yeah, and for Firebat, who's been getting a lot of bad beats so far this season, those types of wins got to feel good.
Sort of. You know, I feel like the players who are on the receiving end of bad luck actually want very mediocre luck, because from that point on, they want to be able to win with the average hand.
Yeah.
And show that they, like, had a satisfying interaction back and forth, instead of just like, well, I got really lucky and then got really unlucky. It doesn't really feel like I played many games.
Well, for me, when for instance, if I'm playing on ladder, when I go on a losing streak, I want one game where I
you
just
high
blow
roll.
my opponent out with high roll
Yeah.
to swing the momentum back.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
to
you
get your
want the
spirits up.
And then you want the mediocre luck, and you want to be able to rely on your own skill. You just want it as a pick me up, like that peak, and then to kind of stabilize on a plateau where you're saying, now I'm gonna win with skill, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
That one little boost. So that's that
All
boost
right.
for Firebat. Now we can expect a nice, even keeled hand, so we can really beat Eddie with skill.
All right, well, we'll see what ends up happening in game number 2, if we'll get to see a functioning game of Hearthstone back and forth. It's a mage mirror, so anything could happen. We'll find out what happens when we come back.
rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There should be scorching deserts, adventure, monster of narcissism. High stakes think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave, evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save.
My name is Eddie Liu, formerly Sehun628. Now it's just Eddie playing. My last year I had a pretty successful year, especially since I only played this game for 2 years. I won DreamHack Atlanta. It's only a tour stall, but it meant a lot to me, especially since I was grinding really hard for a win. When I first knew that, I received the email that I got into Grandmaster, I was really excited. I checked my email at 10:30, and I was hyped. I was like, oh my god, is this actually real? I think I'm a very consistent player. I think the X factor for myself is that I hate playing aggro decks, I would say. I'm a very control/anti-control player. I rather outgrind my opponent in resources. I constantly judge myself, oh, is this right? Is what I'm doing correct? And it means a lot. It means a lot to me that if other people are agreeing what I do and what I think. At this point, I just want to make Worlds. I had a pretty good record in tour stop. I think I was at least top 10, if not top 5. I think I was lucky. I think this group is the easier group, and I think I have a good chance getting out of groups.
My name is James Kostasich. My handle is Firebat. My username is based off the StarCraft player Firebat Hero. I was a fan of him and watched him on Twitch early on in his career, and then just named myself Firebat because I thought it was cool. Something about me that people don't know, I really hate spending money. I try and save it whenever I can. I recently learned how to repair a dishwasher so that I didn't have to buy a new dishwasher. I like doing stuff like that. I get a really good sense of accomplishment and pride whenever I'm able to salvage something. My favorite Hearthstone Esports memory is winning the 2014 World Championship. That was pretty tough to beat, but I'm hoping that one day I can beat that memory. Being in Grandmasters, to me, means that I get another chance to prove myself and show that 2014 wasn't a fluke and that I am still here to play. I mean, I love playing against my own region because I get to play against a lot of my friends, which is always really fun and entertaining, and there's so many different mind games. But at the same time, I'd really love to play against Europe and really knock them down a few pegs because they're so cocky all the time. I look forward to winning the most and losing the least. I definitely don't want to lose, and I definitely want to win, so it's really simple.
Everyone, Firebat currently up 1-0 over Eddie after a very powerful opening hand, and Eddie not able to respond, but just goes to show you why Luna's Pocket Galaxy does offer those ability to win on the spot. When played on the curve in matchups like that, the win rate spikes up so significantly to the point where I was putting it in a tier equivalent to Barnes.
Yeah.
Because it's around the same mana turn, right? 4 to 5 when you want to play it, and you just have this giant power spike that raises it about 30%, maybe even more. And the reason why we bring that out is because the second highest win rate spike card that was similar in terms of its function was Prince Keleseth, back when Barnes and Priest was still in the meta. And Prince Keleseth only raised it by about 15 to 20%. So it was double the power of that. Which, if we were to go back to our Super Saiyan analogy, TJ, that is like being able to go even further beyond the power of a Super Saiyan God.
Dan, I feel like
One of these days, TJ, we're going to sit down and load up Crunchyroll, and we're going to marathon every single one of my favorite animes. I'm actually going through right now and rewatching all of Naruto because, and actually I'm really mad at myself for even pronouncing it that way, but they found a way to remove all the fillers, TJ. All the fillers.
job done. I
You don't even know what I'm talking about.
I don't. One of these days, I just want to for one day of Grandmasters, just get someone up here to cast with you that knows nothing about Hearthstone but knows everything about anime. Just so you can
Oh, so another version of myself.
Yes, I'm going to clone you. And just so you can have that satisfaction. Like, not even care about the games and just make anime references all day long and have someone get it.
You know who would get it?
I wish, Dan.
This is the first time I think I'll say this, but I wish I could cast with Raven for that moment.
Wow, I think that's the first time anybody's ever said that.
Just kidding. Raven's doing a great job over in APAC. Shout out to Derek Brown, has also been the Swiss Army knife of casters. Early game seems like both players have gone for their magic tricks.
Ooh.
Astral Rift into a traveling healer, which is a Farseer-like thing. It restores 3 health for 4 mana, but it also has Divine Shield. And then, of course, the Coppertail Imposter, a mechanical robot squirrel, plotting the downfall of humanity as we speak.
Yep. Also has stealth.
Also has stealth.
Ugh.
So the early game choices here, relatively stable. Firebat is on the coin, so he does have the slight advantage of having extra resources. Playing Mana Cyclone for 1 card just to get a little bit of tempo out. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's kind of something that he's doing based off of his current hand. It looks like his hand wants to curve out. It wants to go the Mana Cyclone, have something on the board into a 4-drop. Most likely Coppertail Imposter, and then kind of rely on that because he has a Conjurer's Calling too. So it's like his next 4 turns are filled up, and he doesn't have a Sorcerer's Apprentice. When is he gonna go for Mana Cyclone? I'd rather have it fighting for board now and curve out alongside of it than try and hold on to it for maybe something to draw on the top. But this right away has changed.
What? So the Tome of Intellect inside of this mythical, magical Book of Secrets is the best card in this matchup.
So all of that analysis I just gave is thrown out the window because he just Tome of Intellects on 4 and picks up the Spot Galaxy. So it's recorded.
Highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I feel like that is unfortunately the story of Firebat's season thus far, and I think it's going to be like. This is not, I'll go ahead and say it. I don't think this is a satisfying win for Firebat if he wins this way. Yeah, he gets a little extra money. Yeah, he recovers a little bit of pride, ties Bloody Face for 7th place. But it's like, you want to play these games back and forth and just kind of like win out by showcasing your ability to understand how to control variance as opposed to just like, well, variance just took over.
Yeah.
That being said, game's not over yet. It's just that Firebat could also just draw all spells. And we have seen Luna's Pocket Galaxy effectively do nothing for another 3-4 turns. If you draw, spells nonstop for turns 5, 6, 7, 8, it's like, well, then why'd you even play Pocket Galaxy?
Yeah.
You just might as well have drawn more cards.
Yeah.
However, if Firebat rips Antonius again, whew, bad news bears for Eddie.
And a pretty dead turn for Eddie as well, which gives Firebat the opening to play Luna's Pocket Galaxy, but instead goes with Mountain Giant for what I'm guessing are similar reasons, right? If you see a dead turn, you could think, well, that gives me an excuse to have a dead turn. But no, that gives you an excuse to go off a turn before your opponent can go off.
Yeah, this does actually make more sense the more I think about it. Perhaps the Luna's Pocket Galaxy is just a straight-up bait. He has double Conjurer's Calling in hand. Why wait for next turn? Because if you play Luna's Pocket Galaxy, let's say next turn you do draw that Mountain Giant equivalent, then you're a turn behind in developing the minions on the board. The Pocket Galaxy is an investment for future big swing turns. Firebat says, I want that swing turn now, which is load up, 5 times the amount of damage on board. The Secret's still messing with Eddie a little bit. He has been testing for Counterspell, but he hasn't tested for Spellbender. So the Ray of Frost here is not going to hit the Mountain Giant. He's going to have to use it again. Firebat knew that this is most likely a possibility too. One of the things about playing a Giant early in this matchup is that it does have a lot of pressure for the damage, but it might force your opponent to even utilize their freezes in suboptimal spots. Players want to use their freeze when they're threatening damage, not when they just need to survive and not take too much damage.
Yeah, it's often like the battle of the Frost Novas. If both players are operating with the Frost Novas naturally that they put in their deck, the first player to use it oftentimes is the one that falters, because that means their board will be frozen last, which means that their opponent is the one that gets to attack first. Big stuff.
And that's when they tech in the 2-mana card that silences your minions, your Jason.
The Librarian. Dalaran Librarian?
Yeah. I forgot the name of the card, but I'm glad you didn't.
We haven't seen it much, though, which I'm surprised by, because it seems really good. One of the limiting factors of it is board space. You need to have the board space to be able to play the minion to unsilence. But it seems super effective.
Yep. Speaking of board space, Firebat restricting the Sea Giant opportunities. They may look like a very weird play, but Firebat knows that Eddie has double Sea Giant in the deck, and if he simply took an extra trade, the opponent will be able to play Sea Giant plus an extra Ray of Frost and stop his damage. He wants his opponent to commit fully to his mana, which would require second Mirror Image plus Sea Giant in order to make a defensive play.
Yeah, it also clears off the Khadgar, importantly enough, which can limit Conjurer's Calling plays. Because if he hadn't killed off Khadgar and just gone for Big Mountain Giant himself, it would have opened up the opportunity for Mountain Giant from 3 mana, which that's how much of a Cosmos card.
Oh man.
That does not feel.
Well, it's just gonna get worse, because Firebat has the opportunity to even take this slower. He doesn't have to just rush in with damage. He can just trade the Mountain Giant and just keep going for Conjurer's Calling. To reduce Eddie's ability to come back. Because the way Firebat could lose is if Eddie picked up Chain Freezes off the Mana Cyclone and then basically wins the freeze war. So I do like removing the Sea Giant this turn.
Yeah.
I like this as well. Once again, restricting the board space. Asking Eddie to provide the threat that can answer this. 3 Mountain Giants, maximum damage, which allows him to push through Grave Horrors if his opponent had a full hand. Because this is the turn where Eddie could have the Uber Nuts, as we like to say, with Conjurer's Calling, Mountain Giant, and Khadgar, but you use the Invocation to make it a little bit cheaper.
But nothing picked up from Eddie.
Yeah.
No Giants early on except for the Sea Giant that he just had to play from hand next turn.
Right. No Giants, no Evocation. He did have the Mana Cyclone, but he used it early on as well, so that's less possibilities. Picks up Sniff Snap, the Evocation, but he doesn't have anything to dump it into.
Yeah, it does open up hand space. He was hoping that he was just going to find eight Giants. That way he could just hold on to his hand and not worry about the overdraw. But unfortunately, Firebat is just. I mean, he's got a full board, 2 more Mountain Giants. Eddie's having to use all of these freezes just to buy time.
Right.
And he doesn't have anything in his hand that he's trying to buy time into. He doesn't have a Giant that he's trying to get cheap enough to go for a big swing turn. He's just freezing so he doesn't die.
Well, he does have the Antonidas Frost Nova. That is something that he can freeze into.
That's turn 10 though.
That
It's
is
so
turn
far
10.
away.
What to do?
Oh, he's hoping for Doomsayer so he can Frost Nova. That would have been pretty nutty.
Yeah.
But, this is looking very bad for Eddie still, having these as Frost Nova. Firebat has yet to pull a trigger on 1 Frost Nova. And now he can add even more resources to his hand. He does have to be very mindful of the possibility that Eddie still draws his second Sea Giant, and that's something that he was accounting for when he traded, say, his Spellbender in. But now he kind of recognizes that if Eddie used a Frost Nova without developing Sea Giant with 5 minutes on the board, then his opponent absolutely is in a bad spot with awkward hand. So Firebat's developing more now into it.
As a minor aside, he can force an overdraw here from Eddie because he did pick up the Loot Hoarder from Conjurer's Calling. It doesn't really matter at this point. I mean, it could matter in the sense that Eddie, so far this game, has been drawing aggressively to search for a good play to make. So maybe you burn that Mountain Giant that Eddie's been trying to draw for so long.
Right.
But at this point, it doesn't even really matter. He's just so far ahead on board, is baiting out freezes.
Time runs out on me.
Firebat can utilize his last mana, hero powering here. Don't think he needs to do too much more. In fact, I think him restricting his board space might be a pretty significant mistake, given that he would be vulnerable to like full board freeze. And there are still a couple of spells that he's not accounting for that are randomly generated.
Yeah.
Mecha'thun. So the Mecha'thun may not seem very important right now, but actually Firebat has the polymorph.
He has the polymorph.
I was like, if he can magnetize onto it, it becomes a really big threat. Oh,
yeah.
Wow, 0 mana Antinous again with Cold. I mean, that has to be lights out.
Yeah. This is probably the last opportunity you have to utilize Cold because the board's going to be too full for that to be super effective. You can even throw in a Fireball to the face if you really want to.
Yes, because it sets up a 2-turn lethal. Well, no, it doesn't set up directly.
It doesn't set it up directly, but what else are you going to spend this mana on? That's what I'm kind of looking at here. You don't need to polymorph the Mecha'thun this turn because if Eddie were to attach Zilliax to it, you would just polymorph the next turn. So you might as well net the damage now, get the additional Fireball.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can assume that the Fireballs from Antonius will do 13 plus the body of Antonius does 5 damage.
Yep.
Eddie, once again, on a situation where he might have to rely on Conjurer's Calling. On the Mana Cyclone, he has 3 chances.
What to do?
Alternatively, is there a different line of play that he could go for here?
There's just no defensive options from the 10 drops. The only defensive possibility is the Big Bad Archmage into a 6-mana taunt like Damage Stegatron.
Right.
In which case, Power of Creation would be more likely to find that, but it wouldn't be enough.
Well, if he got Mecha'thun again, he could immediately Zilliax, but it's not going to do much. 3 chances, 3 fails. Firebat 2-0 over Eddie. Dominant performance. And, you know, a nice way to salvage some of the last remnants of the season.
Yeah. 4-10. If Bloodyface loses his last series, then Firebat would have that tie for 7th place. There's no relegation season 1, so it doesn't matter. But it would just be kind of a little bit of a feel-good moment to not finish solely in last. But
right. In season 2, is it going to be the same, like the tiebreakers? If it's like 2 players tied for 7th or 3 players tied for 7th or 6th?
The lower tiebreaker, I think so.
Okay.
Because there was no relegation this season, I didn't brush up on the rules for that going into season 2.
No, I just assumed that's the case because.
But I think it's the case. Yes. Yeah. It wouldn't. I don't think it makes sense for those tiebreakers to be different.
All right.
But we'll see. We'll get confirmation in August when we start season 2.
Sure. Sounds good. So let's check in with Firebat for a couple of words on his victory. Firebat, you there?
Yep, how's it going?
It's going all right, man. So a couple of really fast games there. You know, where was your head at going into this final week of play, knowing that you know, you were eliminated, but you still had some matches to play here?
I mean, my head was right on top of my neck, the same place it's always been. You know, the score doesn't really change that much. But, yeah, you go in focused. I mean, the goal is always to win no matter what. So nothing really changed that. It would have been nice to win against Amnesiac because he talks so much crap all the time.
Yeah.
So it's nice when you can shut him up. I like doing that. So that one sucked not to get a win there, but being able to take down Eddie feels good. I lost to him previously, so now 1-1 overall against him lifetime. I'd like to be positive lifetime against anyone. Kind of just take it one match at a time without looking at the big standings and just saying, I'm here to play today and let's see what we can get done.
Gotcha. That's a great attitude. A lot of players are posting their thoughts on Season 1. Kind of want to get some of your thoughts, unless you're still gathering them ready for a twit logger, in which case I'll read that.
I haven't really compiled anything organized or professional, but it really feels like best of 3 maybe is too little. Like that series that I just had versus Eddie, I didn't see his hand, but I'm pretty sure he probably did nothing wrong. I just steamrolled Lunas on 4 the first game, and then generated it, and then I killed it with a 1-mana Antonidas both games. So it's like, what are you really gonna do in his shoes? He didn't have anything he could really navigate. I just high rolled him. So one of my least fun series to play in the GM League so far, and with best of 3. And, it seems like a really big sample size of games that we have going to determine these league standings, but it's really not that many. You only play against everybody twice. So it's pretty easy to get the bad end of the stick and get a loss that you feel like you have no control over, or get a win that you feel like, well, I just won. I had no control over what I was doing. It just happened,
Yeah, totally understandable. We want to play more games, and I mean that's definitely what the competitors have echoed across the board. They want to have more opportunities to beat their opponent overall. But I gotta make one comment on this because we might not get a chance to talk to Zalay and we don't talk to Patra. But OmniSlash as a whole kind of struggled this season. Do you guys talk to each other about that, or is it just kind of like encourage each other from the distance and supporting each other because of that organization ties?
Well, in the beginning, we were all talking and bringing like the same decks together and doing a lot more practicing when the meta was, not figured out. Now that the meta is kind of more figured out and we kind of get the gist of what's going on, I think we'll do better. Me and Zalay, personality-wise, as players, we're more of a solved meta perfecting things kind of guy, less than a innovate, come up with the things immediately. So I think if anything, Season 2 will really go towards our skill set as we're starting to familiarize ourselves with the format. We're more perfectionists than innovators. So, I'm not really worried about it. But, it was pretty rough for Omni as a team Season 1, not going to lie. We didn't think it was going to be this bad, that's for sure. I think one of the issues we had was we had too many people involved when we were talking about deck lists in the beginning. We didn't have our practice group set up with the people we wanted, so we reached out to just anybody that wanted to practice, and whoever seemed the most enthusiastic, we were like, you're on the team, let's do it. You got a good energy, I like you. So, and then the problem with doing that, though, is you get like 20 cooks in the kitchen, and then suddenly the kitchen starts whipping out some dishes that you're not really happy with. And as well, people just don't really talk. So, like, maybe they're not trying to leak it, but someone says something to someone, and then someone says something to someone, and down the line, then all of a sudden you have 8 bad matchups in a row or something. So,
funny how that works, right? Who's the rat? Who's the rat?
You got
It's a lay.
It a little. Sure, we definitely had too many people, and I don't think anyone was leaking intentionally.
Right,
but it just happens. When you have 20 people talking about deck lists, and someone says to their friend, "Oh, look at this sweet mage deck that Firebat came up with," or something like that. Then they're like, "Oh, I wonder what Firebat's playing in GM Week. My buddy here, this cool mage deck from him, So we gotta narrow that down a little bit. So there's some. It's Season 1. There's some corners to cut, things to improve on, tidy things up, and then it'll probably flow together better Season 2.
Yeah. The ultimate plot twist was Zalay was leaking the deck list the entire time against himself.
I mean, you go to practice, right? You build your deck lists on your account, and let's say I have 3 mage deck titled 1, 2, and 3 on my account, and then I go to stream and I go over to my second deck list page, and someone looks at there and there's 3 deck lists, 1, 2, and 3 there. They're like, I wonder what he's playing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's super easy to do. I guarantee you, I've done it at least twice. I have leaked what deck list I was playing in GM by just streaming without deleting them from my account.
Just delete them every time you stream and put a different class and label it 1, 2, 3.
Plant the seeds of doubt, right? Like, you're like, oh, I'm bringing warrior, and then they bring the counter, and then you got them right where you want them. All right. Well, Firebat, thanks so much for that awesome insight into the season. Better luck next season, but we know that you'll come back even stronger, so good luck then.
Thanks.
All right, so with that, second series is done. TJ, we're chugging along, so we had a little bit of a longer interview.